Skyler, welcome and thank you for being with us today. Before we dive into all of the fun payments talk, let's begin with a quick introduction and let our attendees get to know you. So, as Dwolla's Chief Technology Officer, can you share a little bit about your role there and a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for the invite today. I'm Skyler Nesheim. I'm the CTO here at Dwolla. I've been with the business for the last 13 years or so. My responsibility is really around helping the company manage our technical operations, as well as leading our product initiatives and product roadmap. I'm really proud of the innovative and excited work that we've done at Dwolla, and happy to share some of our journey in instant payments with the audience today.
Great. Well, we're excited to have you. And based on your role, I think we have the right expert here to give us some really exciting insights. So let's jump in. And now that we got to know you, let's get to know Dwolla a little bit more because many audience members probably know Dwolla by name. But for anyone less familiar, can you give us a quick rundown of how you would describe Dwolla's role and the payment in the payments ecosystem and what makes you different? What sets you apart?
At a simple level, Walla is a technology enablement layer for account to account payments. We work with other software platforms, perhaps insurance platforms or accounts payable and receivable platforms, B2B marketplaces, and fintech infrastructure companies. And these companies all want to embed pay by bank experiences directly into their products. Our job at Dwolla is to make that easy and safe. We're not a payment rail. Our job is really to make the payment rails more usable inside of existing real workflows. As an example, with one API, our customers are able to access account to account payment rails. That includes ACH and instant payment options. And as our reach expands, we can help our customers intelligently route based on what's available and what's needed for their use case. The real differentiator for us is helping with operational enablement of payments. We all know that payments are a complicated space, especially at the edges. And so we help our customers with challenges like verification, reconciliation, and exception handling. And we spend a lot of time making sure that our customers don't have to become experts in order to enable and embed these types of solutions in what they do. So when someone integrates with Dwolla, our goal is to make sure that that payment experience feels really straightforward and predictable. And we believe that the best integrations with a technology company like us are boring in a good way.
I love that. And yes, payments are very complex. So it's exciting to hear how you can simplify that and not force everyone to be a payments expert because not everyone wants to be payments geeks like us and they don't have to be. So, very appreciative of that explanation. Let's jump into some of the more exciting stuff around instant payments specifically. So we know Dwolla has been using instant payments since 2021. So pretty cutting edge there, which is exciting. And last year, you all enabled the FedNow service for your customers, which was another huge milestone and big kudos to you all. So, what really compelled Dwolla to lean into instant payments all those years ago? And what were some of the initial opportunities that you were able to use to craft a really seamless value proposition and sell it internally?
Well, when we got started in instant payments back in 2021, what I would say is that it wasn't about generating buzz for us. It was about meeting our customers and their real customer driven demand. We work with a lot of innovative platforms where they're building experiences where real-time money movement has become table stakes for them or for the customers that they work with that are trying to digitally transform. For example, we worked with one platform that has business payouts based on incoming payments. And previously, they had to wait for settlement before making funds available downstream. And that introduced friction and delay in their entire workflow. So, instant payments have stepped in to help change that. Now they can move money with certainty and design around availability instead of design around delayed settlement. The interesting part for us has been that speed, although it's an obvious benefit of instant payments, it's not the whole story. We see that certainty and 24/7 availability are where some of the real value comes from these solutions. So when you're building and designing products and you can imagine money movement that is happening immediately and irreversibly, you know that it's going to work the same on Sunday night as it might work on Tuesday morning. That changes how you start to build and design products. And as an innovator, you stop designing around challenges with existing or legacy payment rails and focus on how to build around new and modern technology interfaces. Another piece that really grabbed our attention when we were working on instant payments is data. And I think this is an area that maybe doesn't get as much talk time as it should. Instant payment rails help us carry a richer context with a transaction and with transaction instructions. And that can become really important for payment operations. In real operation scenarios, reconciliation is where a lot of the cost can live. And if a payment shows up with clean identifiers, remittance data, things that you can automate around and predict and reconcile more simply, it it reduces your costs in manual overhead and reduces your costs in terms of what you have to investigate. So we've seen firsthand that with uh, this kind of implementation, the biggest lift isn't just sending like the payment instruction. It's around learning how to leverage these structured remittance data and helping get the pieces in place to reduce the human costs over time. So internally, we kind of framed it as where can we find example use cases inside of our customer base where certainty, availability, and better data materially change the outcomes for the customers that we're working with. And that's what got us excited to step into these new payment rails.
I love that, and I think it's often, to your point, lost sometimes in the conversation of instant payments. Instance in the name, so speed is top of mind, but the transparency, the data opportunities, and efficiency that come with it should be just as front and center in any value case you're building for your organization. So, really exciting. And so you built the case, you sold it internally, you prepared your systems, but I'm curious, what were your customers' initial reactions once this was available to them, and their customers, even further down the stream to instant payments and all that it offered? And did you have any early lessons on anything particularly well received or exciting, or even unexpected from your customers?
The first reaction that we saw, and honestly, the first reaction that we had was it just works.
I love it.
Um, there's something that changes when you do an instant payment for that first time and you hit the refresh button on your browser and you can literally see a balance change or refresh in real time and land. That moment can kind of stick with you. It's simple, it's tangible and touchable, and you feel almost an immediate reset and expectations and vision on what could be. You can feel your mind opening up to where the future is going. And I think that was our first experience with instant payments and our first real use cases leveraging it. What customers, came to love about this over time is not just that it's instant and that it's fast after that first reaction, it's about the predictability, right? No longer having to work around edge cases or challenges any longer, or thinking about cutoff windows, thinking about having to wait, not having to say, hey, we'll expect to see this payment clear tomorrow, or we'll expect to see the payment in a few days. Seeing that transition in real time, especially like nights or weekends or after hours, and seeing it work consistently over time has been the thing that I think has provided a lasting impact. That real practical impact where you now see payments changing from something where we're designing around a rail that has a leg or has a longer set of feedback time that can introduce questions like, hey, where is this money at? How are these things have landed for our customers or for us? That could be support tickets or escalations that we have to work through. The long-term impact of instant payments has been reducing those and moving those things around. You asked about what we've learned. One lesson that we've learned early on is about how to position and explain instant payments to our customers when we're working with them, how to get them excited. Because just like us and just like the story that we're telling here, the instant, the speed being in the name is only one part overall of what can happen. So we want to make sure that we're telling the story about making reconciliation and attribution easier with the rich data that's inside of instant payments. We want to make sure that our customers understand how to set clear expectations and about product behaviors so that users aren't surprised by errors that they might see and so that there's consistency in the user experience when we're leveraging these solutions. And we help our customers be intentional about thinking about where they might offer instant payments and where they continue to use an existing payment rail today. So those are some of the things that we've thought about with customers and lessons that we learned early on, both in adopting them and leveraging them, but also in bringing the products that offer them to market. But overall, the it just works, I think, is still the most exciting part of leveraging these things and helping to see a business transform an operation that they have today and bringing this new technology inside of their existing operation. That's where some of the magic happens.
I love that, especially because we sometimes are waiting for, the fireworks and sparklers to come out when a new payment opportunity arises, but true success can really be there was nothing that happened. It just worked and no one had to think about it, no one had to worry about it. And your customers were able to have that. And I think to your earlier point of you bring the expertise to your customers, that's what everyone, here attending is trying to do. Bring that expertise, bring that seamless experience so our customers don't have to think about it and it just works. So I love that. I think that's great. And I know, we talked about you launched in 2021, but obviously your offerings in Dwolla have come a long way since. And we do know that you support a wide variety of industries, use cases, and examples. So, what are some of the use cases that you're most excited about today when it comes to instant payments? And are there any you see gaining traction in the future or that you have your eye out for that will be pretty prominent coming up here?
I'll focus on a few examples that really stand out. The first one I think of is insurance payouts. And I think this is a strong example where an instant payment can really matter. A couple of real scenarios that some of us have experienced, right? Imagine that you have a loss at your home or an insurance claim at your home and you need to do repairs. Being able to receive funding for those repairs in near real time and be able to pay contractors and move them forward is really important. Seeing a claim approved is an emotional moment for us, and waiting for funds to clear in order to solve that, is something that can take away from that experience. So we know that there are a lot of insurance companies, and this is a real enterprise example where they are building out these payment rails to differentiate and really reach their customers. One that resonates with me is you know, not just insurance for home and auto like you think about, but there's other emerging insurance use cases as well. We support some companies in the pet insurance space, right?
Love it.
So many of us have pets at home, and you know that there can be surprise issues or operations that you need to do, and again, that can be a very emotional thing for us. Is this place where technology crosses over from just things that happen in computers and over APIs to things that touch us in the real world, and being able to receive an instant payment to support an emergency for potentially something that's really important in your life. Um, you can feel it in that moment. Bringing it back maybe to some other use cases on the B2B side, I would say that treasury and accounts payable use cases are also one that's very interesting for instant payments. You can imagine that in some context, instant payments can reduce the risk profile compared to other payment methods in the wrong scenario, right? So we can suppress our treasury payment cycles, and we can combine instant payments with richer data in order to improve reconciliation and make those processes a little bit cleaner. A third one I think about, is maybe like a real estate or property management scenario. And there's a lot of different scenarios where I think instant payments can show up. um, one that I think about is like returning security deposits, right? So imagine that you are a tenant who's moving out of a leased property, and you're working with the property manager to receive your security deposit back, right? So the difference in, hey, they've done the inspection on the property, they've done a walkthrough, they've looked around, perhaps there's some things that you need to pay them back for that have been damages to the property, or perhaps they're returning the full instant payment. Um, Leveraging a platform like Dwolla and instant payment rails is really becomes a treasury management operation, right? Where we're managing security deposits that we've received. We're thinking about a decision and the right time to return that security deposit. And perhaps we want to use a standard payment rail with a standard clearing option, or we want to leverage an instant payment rail where we've got a tenant that's been really great, and we're ready to pay them back right now. We can go ahead and pay them that security deposit back instantly. So these are all real examples of areas where we're seeing instant payments show up.
I love that, especially as a dog owner myself, thinking back to when my pup needed her stomach pumped because she ate too many sticks. Instant payments would have been super clutch at that time. So I think those types of use cases that can resonate with the human side as well as the business side is key. And I'm curious, what if you had to get your crystal ball and think to the future use cases, if there's any that are emerging that you're extra excited about or thinking about at Dwolla.
We're in a really important moment, technology holistically. There it started with a wave of digital transformation, happening around payments. And, following that wave, we have now seen the way that we think about instant payments and money movement changing, right? We've seen the emergence of blockchain technology. And then even beyond that, now we're seeing the emergence of artificial intelligence speeding up technology innovation even more. So there's those three things and more that have changed dramatically, and the pace of innovation has moved really, really quickly. I see instant payments being critical to supporting that technology infrastructure and innovation, because the rail is designed to work in a way that all of these new technologies are also designed to work, right? It's technology native. It's designed to work with APIs and cloud infrastructure. It's designed to work in real time, which is what all of these advances in technology are also starting to do, right? So we start thinking forward to the future of like artificial intelligence, and thinking about potentially having AI agents run part of our lives and do part of our work and manually or automate tasks that were previously thought of as manual tasks. We don't know how those agents will remit payment exactly. We don't know what that looks like, but we know that modern instant payment rails are very likely going to be involved in that in some way.
Yeah, it's a great point when the customer experience in all other facets of our life is already 24 by 7 and instant, whether that's your grocery and food delivery, goods and services. And so the tech piece of it, to your point, coming along with that's going to require a modern rail as well. So it's exciting to see where the customer experience journey is going to go. I'm curious as well because we've talked about a lot of the value Dwolla sees in instant payments, and even how it just works for your customers and what they've seen. But when you are talking to customers or others in the industry, how are you articulating the value of these types of transactions to your customers or potential customers? And how do you think of, or how does that work into how you think about pricing as well?
When we talk with customers about an instant payment option, we really embrace our role as a technology enabler. So we're not trying to lead with, hey, this is an instant payment. You can do it faster. Here's why you should pay more for that specific payment type or payment rail. We don't start there. We start by talking about outcomes. We deeply understand our customers and we start thinking about the ways and the questions that we could ask that could lead to this as a solution to problems that they have. So we talk through, what are your support costs today in managing your payment infrastructure? How are your customer expectations changing in terms of how they want to receive payment? How quickly they expect to receive it, the way that they expect us to receive it, the way they expect to interact with it, the user experience that your customers want to have. We talk through that stuff. That can lead to great discussions with our customers about retention, right? Do you see the speed at which a payment or the data involved in a payment, or your treasury operations being a key indicator to retaining customers or growing with customers? We try to talk through and understand, like, are there product experiences that you want to offer that you didn't believe were possible, that, if you can imagine a real-time payment network being involved in it, that you could now remove some of the barriers that you thought existed or some of the friction that you thought existed in providing a new product or experience. And I kind of mentioned this already, but we try to understand treasury operations too, right? We try to understand controllers and CFOs as they're managing the finances of a business. Are there, again, scenarios or friction challenges that they have that they believe an instant payment could help solve? So we focus on the problems first. And as we talk through the problems and the challenges and understand them, the pricing conversation starts to sort of evaporate and go away, because we're not talking about the cost of a new payment rail and comparing it against an existing payment rail. We're talking about a technology innovation that's solving a deep and meaningful problem for someone. They're automating a workflow, bringing a new product experience, better managing their treasury operation in a way that the pricing goes away and isn't as big of an is and isn't an issue to discuss, right? It's not a barrier to adoption. It becomes a, well, why wouldn't we do this? We've been having this problem for forever. If we have the technology to solve it, why wouldn't we leverage it and use it? And that discipline has helped us build confidence both internally and externally as we try to roll out these new instant payment methods.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I want everyone who's listening right now, especially those who have not yet enabled FedNow or started your FedNow journey, to especially tune into our last question because I think Skylar, you've been giving so many helpful tips of how to begin and continue these conversations of instant payments with customers and given a lot of folks things to think about, especially I think to your last point of starting with the problem because you might not have customers banging down your door for FedNow specifically because they don't know the term FedNow. They don't want to have to know the terms of payments. So if you're able to talk through the problems they need to solve, you can lead them to the solutions that make the most sense to them, and get to that point of, well, why wouldn't we? So with that in mind, and everyone with their pen and paper in hand, as Skylar assigns some homework, customers always want to know what's in it for me. And, you talked about some of the business benefits and how you talk to customers and get them excited about instant payments. So, for the final question, I'd love to know any other tips you have around that or homework for our lovely attendees who want to get started on their FedNow journey today.
I would recommend doing some thought experiments and, you know, grabbing your notebook and grabbing your piece of paper and thinking about your what's in it for me. Start plotting out your journey and imagine a point in time where you're able to adopt or enable instant payments. And take your notebook, draw a line on it, and on one half say, here's all the things that we had to think about before instant payments. And on the other half, draw a line and say, here are all the things that we now get to think about after instant payments. Some of the things that might appear on one side might be we've got a plan around potential cutoff windows for our payments. We need to think about batch processing in our payments. We need to think about, you know, thing cycles being delayed or slower feedback in terms of if the payment has cleared or it's going to be returned or there's, something we need to consider there. We need to think about reconciliation, right, in our pre-instant payment world. How are we going to manage the data? How are we going to reconcile across multiple systems? Consider scenarios like I'd mentioned before, like support tickets. Do research into how many support tickets are you getting today due to delays or understanding where a payment's at or when it's going to clear, status related things. I think everyone in the room knows their business the best and that they'll have to think through those things. But then on the other side of that line, now imagine a world where you're able to solve a payment problem instantly. And what are some of the things that you should think through there, right? So now you have 24/7 availability. Now you have certainty that a payment has cleared when you get the instruction back or when you get the API response back. You can now make faster decisions or more real-time decisions in your business than you could make before. You've got richer context of the transaction, and so you might have easier reconciliation. You may have cleaner operations, right? The support tickets may start to evaporate or go away. Again, it's getting into that use case and understanding the problem that you're trying to solve and mapping back to how an instant payment helps you solve that problem. Identifying the use case, investing in your operational readiness, and thinking about intentional rollout if you're headed there for an instant payment workflow in your business. We're seeing that these new payment rails are becoming table stakes for many, many business as they continue on digital transformation journeys and continue to modernize.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Skylar. I think all of your insights around not only the tangible use cases you all are seeing and supporting today, the business cases you've built, but those exact steps are exactly what our attendees need and what the industry needs when you might be wondering, how do I get that first foot in the door, and how do I kick this off? So, thank you so much for spending the time with us this afternoon and for sharing some of those really meaningful insights from an organization that's been doing this for quite some time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.